Greetings, warlords. Rodge here. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. Joined by Monty. Once again, Monty, how are ya?
Rodge, I am doing super. It's been a great month of Saga. How are you, sir?
Well, pretty good, yeah. Pretty decent Saga month for me as well. Today, we're going to dive into the Fanatical Pilgrims as our topic of choice. So I never had firsthand experience with these guys, but Monty has shown me the ways of the Pilgrim. Was that your first run with them?
It was my first run out. See, this is part of the campaign. This is the genius of Rodge. You've gotten me to shake out of my comfort zone, try warbands I didn't think I wanted to try. And Fanatical Pilgrims is one thing that I looked at and I was like, nah, and I tried it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad I got to play them. And then once we were in it, I don't know if you thought the same. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of nuance here and potential questions with this unit. So we thought it'd be good to devote some time to dive into these. I mean, it's weird. We did the Age of Crusades mercenary chat, but we just kind of glanced over these guys, saying they were good. And I don't think we said anything else besides that. But I think it's going to be a must listen if you're playing in the Crusade era and using mercenaries. I think it'll be illuminating for sure. So, yeah, we're going to have that at the end of the show. Up front here, digging into Saga news and events. So, Monty, do you have anything in the holster here? I got a couple things.
Right. The only thing that pops in my mind is, unfortunately, you have to be in the UK for it. What is it? Northern Tempest lads are doing an Age of Hannibal event. And I also heard them announce that it looks like the UK Grand Melee is going to be on this fall. With an interesting twist. I only mention this because people talk about this a lot. If I remember the announcement right, I think they were going to go ahead for their Grand Melee and allow everything except Age of Magic. So if you wanted to bring Age of Hannibal, you can mash them up against Vikings. You can mash them up against Crusaders.
Yeah. So that was going to be one of my news bits. The UK
I stole
Grand
it.
Melee. No, you've highlighted the majesty of the event. Unfortunately, I believe it's already sold out.
Wow!
I think I saw that. So, that's later this year, and that's awesome. That's really interesting that they're just letting it all hang out there with the different ages. I think between invasions, Vikings, Crusades, there seems more of a you can see thematically mixing them more,
right?
But at least until Age of Alexander and the Caesars are out, because those are supposed to play well with the Age of Hannibal books. You don't want it left out there, Monty. Everybody's pumped.
Agree.
Armies and should be interesting. A lot of options in the Hannibal armies compared to some of those as far as equipment type. You don't have to decide your equipment until you set down, so maybe you would have more flexibility in the Hannibal faction. Just Carthage has so much.
Yeah, right.
How are the Vikings supposed to fight elephants, Monty?
I know. With flaming pigs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. So
not a shield wall for sure. You'll let them double their auto hits on you.
No, we gotta crunch the numbers. An elephant going into the Scottish Hearth Garden. I think the Scots probably still went out, but that would be
I agree.
an epic smash.
It really would be.
Yeah, because you would. Is there a reroll ability for the Scots, or it's just a plus? Just a plus to the defense dice that makes it so nasty, or are you re-rolling the defense dice too?
I think if you put a rare in there, it gets extra good. I haven't played the Scots. Okay. I just remember painful memories of how hard they are to beat down.
Yeah. You got the elephants, and then you have that one that lets you make them re-roll successful saves. So that kind of maybe you'll sneak something through at
That's
least.
True.
But anyways, I'm not going to be the one to stress test that, Monty. You're in charge of that. Maybe next July you can report
got it
back.
on my plate.
Be sitting in your bedroom late at night, smashing your elephant. And your wife walks in. Monty, what are you doing?
Okay. I need a breath.
We gotta dial it back. Oh, sorry, bud.
That was good.
I'm glad I let you get that water.
Yeah, my goodness. Didn't know where this was going to go or it'd go off the track so fast.
Well, I think I'm going to derail it a little bit more here and say that, Monty, another piece of news. You were on the Saga Ohio podcast. I listened to you chat with Mike back and forth. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That's good to hear. And
yeah, he's a great host like you, Rodge. Very smooth, just kind of transition. Some interesting Saga brain teasers as we kind of went along. And it's the kind of talk I like to do with my friends. So it's like, yeah, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of had a nice kind of chummy after the game kind of feel to it, when I was listening to it. So
good.
I think that was a good episode. Some nice work.
Awesome.
Okay, well, that's it for now. No new fact, no new books. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
We'll get something new there. So let's move on to comments from last time. And we got
quite
some
a few.
Yeah, we got some good ones here.
Mm-hmm.
I might limit it to 3. I might do more. Yeah. let's dive in. So the topic last time was how to run a good Saga demo game, and we got some additional tips and tricks on that. So I definitely wanted to share all of those. And so Patrick Weaver chiming in, label the terrain with description. So his example is forest, high cover, block line of sight, uneven. Put them on small cards facing the player, and then he's got notes on how it impacts shooting versus melee. The plus to your saves. This is a great idea.
Yes,
have you ever done anything like this?
I have not. I think I did not see this before the little demo I had, but I would do this in the next one I do.
Yeah, I think especially maybe the first one would be fine, but then especially once you're setting up the terrain as part of the game, you're like the second, the third, the fourth game in, and you're like, all right, you gotta set up the terrain to maximize your benefit here, and you just have all these pieces. Having the cards, I think, could be helpful. And I actually have little tokens that say this stuff on it already, because so I have like a one that says low cover, and then the other side says high cover, or whatever the official terms are. Because
that's awesome.
In Age of Magic, you can summon that terrain, and then it has like the different attributes, and then some of the spells do stuff like that. So I'm like, I need a boatload of tokens for that one. So I had those tokens made up. So depending on what kind of piece of terrain came up, you had the little labels there, and you knew exactly what you were looking at, because you had some interesting combinations that could pop up. So I think that is a great idea.
Big thumbs up.
Thank you for sharing, Patrick. Another one from AS, I can only presume that stands for Anglo-Saxon. I found that for a brand new player, just using the basic Saga abilities for the first game is a good idea. So this, I can't believe we didn't talk about this, or I forgot to bring it up. So ages back, there's a video with Stephen Holdeman about Raw. We call that Raw Saga. AS. Right. I think this could be a good idea. I guess for me, you're probably missing out on some of the flavor that you would have otherwise. But I think for learning the mechanics, especially of when to use fatigue, when to hold it, and just how rolling a bunch of uncommons can hurt your warrior build. Could be fun.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that, Monty?
Yeah, I agree. Maybe this is a little tricky to suss out, but maybe the deal here is you meet the new player where they're at. And what I mean by that is there might be someone who walks in, like let's say in a demo, and they're like, show me this game, and they have no idea, right? And this might be perfect for it. I did a one-on-one demo game after our open demo day, the following Sunday, and the gentleman who showed up had read his board. He'd watched one or two of your videos. He'd read the rules. So he came up with prep, but he needed to see, like, how do these pieces go together? And so he was all about, like, okay, how do I stack ability? So he wanted to see the board. And so, same deal. Meet him where he's at. He's got the board. He's ready. He's got a good understanding. And so that's where you build out.
Yeah, I think I like what you said there. And then I guess I should read the second half of his comment here, because I think it actually is builds on what he's saying here. But you use the basic for the first game to demonstrate the movement and then make it quick.
Got it.
So you could do 3 or 4 points, maybe 6-inch, deploy 6 inches apart.
Yep.
And then hopefully then you play the second game with the advanced abilities included. So
yeah.
I really like that idea, because sometimes with the demos, they kind of lock themselves into bad positions, and they might see that, and well, we got 45 minutes to go here. I'm just gonna pound you.
I'm gonna kill everything now.
Yeah, so that I think can help prevent that. So that is a great idea.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for sharing. And then we're kind of talking about what good scenarios there are to use. And so one that could be fun would be challenging for the person giving the scenario. So, they still kind of have a fun game or a challenge. So Frank Frey chimed in here. I find that the retreat scenario from Age of Invasions is a real challenge. And I had to go and look that one up because I wasn't familiar with it. Monty, have you? Have you looked this one up?
I think I was probably eyeing it for our continued campaign game, but I must have discarded it because we have not played it. Yeah,
this one is a very interesting scenario. This one's pretty brave for the guys putting this in, I think, because the attacker deploys right on the edge, the defender's in the middle, and then you guys are like moving both towards the same side. Like the defenders are running away and the attackers are chasing them down.
Okay.
And so the defender's trying to get guys off, but the way the points work is like you kind of got to stay and fight a little bit too. It's really hard to see, how it could go, because you could see it like, it just feels like it'd be an auto win one way or the other, but you can't tell who will get it just based off reading it. So it's worth playing. So we gotta give this one a try sometime.
Yeah,
Buddy.
I think so.
Saying it isn't part of the campaign, but I gotta figure out how this works. And one thing is, I kind of doubt that these scenarios will make it to an Age of Invasions re-release, just based off what's in the other books. So I think it's still worth having these books, and if you can find Aetius and Arthur cheap somewhere, pick it up just for these scenarios, and the Limes campaign stuff I think is quite interesting.
Agree.
So yeah, I think there's 4 scenarios in here, but they're all very interesting.
Right,
So,
Battle Around the Campfire continues to be one of my all-time favorites.
All right. Well, I think that we can wrap up the comments there. Thank you, everyone, once again for chiming in. And let's move on to our hobby stuff here. Monty, what have you wowed us with?
Okay, well, I uploaded my picture. Had a little trouble getting them all in the shot, but I did finally crawl across the finish line with my 48 Gallic warriors, 6 chariots, oh so fiddly with so many pieces to assemble. I know you Warhammer people chuckle when I complain about that. Seriously, but it was so fiddly. And then I took them out for a test run, and each time I play my buddies in Age of Hannibal, they seem to bring more shooting to the table. So I quickly went out on the net, and I found 12 Levy archers, which I blitzed across at the finish line. So calling that done, they're out. And now on to my demo, my loner, my Gripping Beast Pagan Bruce Warband. And I've got 4 points of them painted along with all the shields. And now I'll do another 3 or 4 points, and then on to Aventine Romans.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that one will be good.
Keeping it going. Army of Mutt. He's unstoppable, people.
I've got to stop. This is an obsession.
No, keep going. This is awesome. Love these guys. The naked bodies, I'm sure, sped up the process, but
it does when you have a formulaic way of doing it. Although, Rodge, and this is certainly an army that I will admit I seriously lost my motivation somewhere in there. So I can always kind of come in and paint them up a little bit, and because they were just kind of a wave of flesh, I did do what I thought was a little twist to kind of like break that up visually. And I roped up, I bought the giant box or bag of Gallic warriors, like 60 Gallic warriors. I took all the, oh my gosh, come on. Not the robes, the capes. They took all the capes out of there. I took my Numidian capes and I just put just a ton of capes in there just to add some color and break it up.
Yeah, I was going to say I really like the capes and the blast of color along with the shields.
Yeah, the shields are amazing.
They look great. Very effective for, I'm sure, that the effort you put in.
I was going to say, Raj, that's the one other grinding part of this project is I love Little Big Man Studio shield transfers, but they had to make them to match the, what do you call it, the little knock or notch. And each of these, most of these came in 2 parts. And so you cut them out, and then you get to the mark that goes around the little knock, and it has 3 stabby parts that you can't possibly get a scissors into. So now you get out your X-Acto knife, and you just grind over each half. And I'm just like, what are my life choices? Wow. How did I end up here? It was very slow, very fiddly, and just one more kick in the rear as you're kind of coming to the finish line. But good news, when you slap all those guys in and paint and feather them in a little bit, then the whole thing lifts up a little bit.
Yeah, these guys look awesome. Those decals. That's where you have to send me some more pics of because I want to see these chariots a little bit more.
Oh yeah, they kind of got buried in the back.
How was it painting those?
So it's a lot, and you have to kind of think it through. Like, I mean, I tend to go for like, what's the quickest way to do this? So actually with the chariots, you need to be a little more thoughtful, like because the sides come up big and trying to get a brush in there, you need to kind of go in steps. You need to paint the horses as one step. You need to paint the tethers. You got to assemble the tethers with the driver, and then you need to paint the driver before you get them in the chariot. So you just like that's part of like this. It's not going to be quick. You just have to kind of like think it through. Okay, what am I going to do, and how am I going to do these guys? And yeah, that's it. Just kind of slow and steady.
Okay. Yeah, from what I could tell, they look mighty fine. I'm sure you'll post those on the Discord, maybe some additional pics with the chariots and stuff.
Do that. Yep, I've got some exactly. And I'll get them out on the table this Thursday, so that'll be fun. See how many of those chariots I use in one game. Yeah. All.
Now, should we have people contact you directly for purchase of these lads for sale? What do we?
Well, so I did do a pretty big reset in the background this last month. I was watching my boxes of miniatures just slowly climb up the wall. Because of all the supply chain problems, I couldn't even find like the ordinary stackable boxes that I drop magnets into. And anyways, I did burn off. I did sell my Victrix Numidians. I sold my Victrix Carthaginians. And I also sold off my Crusader Franks. So 3 went out the door. I made some space, And now I'm going to start filling up the space.
All right. We're going to fill it up for a little bit yet. I mean, you can just send him the offer. I mean, he may or may not accept. Don't be offended if he refuses for now, but maybe like a 6-month follow-up, you might have some success there. Awesome. Nice work, buddy.
Thanks, dude.
I did paint some models for Saga, which is
yes, you did.
Always good when you have a reoccurring show about Saga. So you painted 1,000 Gauls, and I did six heathens since last time.
It's quality. Holy cow, that is beautiful, Rodge. Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Cool. Yeah. So at this point, I'm done with the V&Vs. I think I said I'm plowing through the Gripping Beast, the Jomsviking models, which are great. A lot of fun. The Brother Vinnies, Maiden models at this point. So I'm closing in. I guess I've hoped that I could just kind of power through and do a couple big batches back to back, but I'm working in other stuff. I like some sci-fi models I was working on, and so I've got the next group of 6 up. That'll be it for the warriors, kind of technically, and then I'll have 4 berserkers and the shield maiden warlord that I have. So
nice.
I've got 11 models to go, and 6 of them are in the process of being base coded. So I'll have a legal army, and then once that's done, hopefully sometime in July and August, I can add the cavalry component for the pagan peoples build. And then I just need I was looking, there's only 4 more warriors, I think, of the Jomsvikings. So I can paint those up, and then I can do a full Viking build with 2 levy, 3 points of warriors and berserkers. It's a ton of models, 53 man Viking warband. It's pretty big, so I'm looking forward to that. But then just keeps going, because then with the pagan peoples, I got to have some archers now, and I want to get some archer warriors in there, and I can just foresee it continuing to go. But really happy with it, having more fun with these. I think I talked before. Painting them was never that kind of fun compared to other things, but I don't know, kind of getting loose, kicking back, doing things. So, the colors might not match exactly. Sometimes the techniques are a little different that I'm using, but just having fun. And hopefully it'll be done soon enough.
Right. Rodge, I can't wait to see these in person. And I think I can reasonably expect to maybe see them in person, maybe this summer.
Yeah. I mean, at the latest Saga Storm for sure, but hopefully we can get something going in between, either on my end or your end, somewhere in there.
Exactly. Well, it's a gorgeous masterclass, Rodge. It's a real treat to watch them come along. And I also know they fight extremely well, because we've been testing this in the digital world.
Yeah, they put up a fight. And I'm already getting ready, though, for the next stuff here. So I officially put in the little big man shields, Hannibal transfers that I needed. So you can only get those through Victrix, my understanding was. So, so I placed the order with Victrix, and I guess I thought it'd take a month to arrive at, probably less than a week.
Yeah, they're fast.
Envelope with all the transfers, Numidians, Gauls, the Carthaginians. I got a few different ones. I think I'm going to use the successor heavy cav for my Hearthguard build for Carthaginians.
Yeah,
so
I think that's a good choice.
I think I probably will use those. So I kind of have a couple of different shield options for those guys, and looking forward to moving on, but sticking with the heathens. We're gonna power through. We're gonna get it done, Monty.
Nice.
All right, let's get into some game talk. Why don't we we'll get into our campaign game after this random game talk. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Because that'll lead right into the Fanatical Pilgrim chat. So, you told me you've got few pokers in the fire here. Tabletop Simulator, in-person games. So, what would you like to regale us with?
Maybe it's an interesting scenario. It was an interesting matchup. So last Thursday, I got the Moors for the first time since they were FAQ'd, and I had sold my Arab collection back before the FAQ, and then I've sent up my Matatawiya, and part of one of these sales here is I got 16 of my Moorish mounted horsemen back in a trade. So suddenly my mutts could run as Moors, and I was very excited to bring them out in a game. So I ran my Moors against my buddies Byzantines in Guard the Loot. And Guard the Loot is the one where you put out 3 objectives with a secret scoring system underneath. You just designate A, B, and C, and you put them in different places on the table, and then your buddy just does the same. And so once again, they're creating a little fog of war with the hidden scores. And then you're also forcing your army to both move, go up and challenge objectives, push the enemy away from objectives. And by the way, you need to save Saga dice to kill the enemy. And so I knew this would be tough. The Byzantines are a top board. My buddy has been training up on them and getting better and better. And on top of it, we've played so long, he really plays the terrain game like A+. So he knows I love my ponies, and so right away he drops a giant 12-inch field in my back line, just to mess it up for me. And so, we kind of went through. Once he did that, I was like, well, I'm going to have to dismount some of my ponies to make this work. And in the first turn, he moves up. My first turn, I'm looking at the Moorish board, and I'm like, boy, this is still really a good board. And one of the tricks as the Moors you could do is I double activated my levy archers. I moved them up, and then I shot them at the Turcopoles, taking a fatigue and not even worrying about it at all, because fatigue with a unit like the levy archers makes them better with the use of hasty shot. Hasty shot gives you 2 defensive dice, plus the enemy who shoots at you takes as many fatigues as is sitting on my target unit. So that's a handy way, right? It's a handy way to mess them up. And also the defensive play Wholehearted gives me 2 defensive dice for each of my fatigues. And so the levy unit was sitting behind a swamp. He was challenging the 2 objectives that were in the swamp. And what kind of developed, Rodge, is kind of interesting. Since that levy unit was sitting up there, my buddy has a lot of shooting. So for the next 3 turns, he was just pounding them, just wave after wave. And I'm sweating, and I'm rolling, and I'm sweating, and I'm pulling. I get 2 plays each turn. I'm kind of, hitting them with 2 defensive dice here, 2 there. And at some point, he knocked them down to 4, and then they just wouldn't die. They just kept eating arrows, and they wouldn't die. And then as kind of our time was expiring, the real key was that, and my buddy would say it openly, he got so caught up in shooting me off the board and with that he didn't maybe put as many dice into moving up on the objectives. And the Byzantines are levy heavy. I think he had 3 points of levy split into 4 units. And then he had some Hearthguard, but he was kind of holding his mounted back because I had a hammer unit of 8 Hearthguard with javelins with a banner and my warlord with them. And so he knew with Torrent of Iron, that would just blow up anything that got in my line of sight. So it was kind of a cagey chess match, but as time expired, I had all the mobility. I was up on the objectives, and, he just looked around and he was like, yep, okay, you're there. You got that one. I didn't kill your archers, so they've messed it up for the 2 that he was sitting on. And, in a straight-up massacre fight, the Byzantines would have taken it. But in the scenario, playing the scenario, the Moors snuck out a win. And I would say, Rodge, that I know some of the Moors players are still sore about the FAQ. And I know that's hard, right, when your wings get clipped a little bit. But, boy, in that one game, I was just I would load these guys up and take them to an event in a heartbeat. But That's just me. That's just me. So very impressed.
Awesome. In that scenario, the objective, Do you have to be the closest, or is it just like you can test if you're nearby, like numbers seals the deal, or?
Right. So it's a little fiddly, and it actually presents you with a problem. The issue is you need to be within VS to control it, and the enemy can't be within S. So not only,
it's just one levy within short can ruin it for you. Wow, yeah, I think that would be very tough against the Byzantine, because you're never gonna like wipe them all out.
Correct.
So there'll always be, that those three guys, they just can come creeping back in, or kind of like your 4 levy, on the flip side, where they just, they're standing there and they're winning, and there's nothing you can do about it. So well done, for sure. Getting through all those bodies is tough. What did he? How many levy did he use?
So he has 36, and he breaks them into 9 packs. And someone asked me, they're like, well, 9 packs, aren't they really fragile? Well, dude, here's the thing. First of all, with Domesticos, as long as you keep feeding that, he's pulling all the rares he needs. Plus, Rodge, it was fun to watch, right? He'd roll his small hand because he's feeding Domesticos, putting 2 to 3 dice up the return. So he's rolling, 5 or 6 dice a turn, and he's throwing 2 or 3 rares every turn, then pulling the rares. There was one point I wanted to take a picture of his board. He had 5 rares parked, so every ability as it is maximum effectiveness. And then my turn would come, and I want to line up a shot with Torrents of Iron. And I actually even I kind of moved up. I took the javelin shot, and then it would be time to pull it. And I'm just looking at all five rares sitting parked defensive, and I'm like, Monty, you're going to throw 2 points of Hearthguard away to kill 1 point. Pull back. And so even though he teased me, coward, running away, it was the right thing to do because his board was just stacked and racked. So then you'd have to play the game. You just play the game of slowly waiting and moving up on the objectives, get a little shooting out, position your board. But I couldn't hit him. It would have been a disaster.
Interesting. Wow, that's really cool. Going down to 9. I think definitely squeezing out the levy. Like if you do 48, 4 units of 10, 1 of 8. Squeezing out that extra unit, I think, because there's so many abilities on that board too that the more units nearby, the better it gets.
Yes.
So just having an extra unit around, on the end of the line can give you 2 dice here and there. So, it's not key really juicing them up to the full 12. It's just gives you like 1 extra attack dice maybe at one point.
Exactly.
But cool. Yeah, I haven't considered going down 3 points. 36 with 9, and then that gives you 3 points to play with. That's really cool. I'll have to think about that because my last Romans build, I'm at 32-ish levy type models. So I need to build. I was thinking I'd have to do get it up to 48 or whatever. But if I can just do something viable at 36, I think I would do that. So, interesting.
Right, and I think you've got them mounted. I think, and the Turcopoles are not a must take, but boy, I got to tell you, they drive me mad every game because they're self-activating for a 12-inch shot, and then they're self-activating to move, and then when you decide to fight with them, they're 4/3, so they're 4s in melee, so they're just really efficient. They're not pulling on his board, and that makes him a great unit.
Yeah. I would definitely consider those. So, speaking of the last Romans, I took them out for a spin. Monty,
okay, I see the picture. Yep.
Now, I don't like playing these guys. I frequently forget that I even own these models, Monty. But I remembered that I own them, and so I played a game against another newbie. So we played Age of Magic earlier. I kind of talked about that, which kind of inspired the Saga demo topic. And we're playing a game this month. So he's using my heathens as Vikings, and I'm using the Romans. And in the spirit of trying to figure out a way to keep it interesting for me, and give him a game, and trying to meet in the middle. So I used the Romans. I used them pre-fac, just the board as it is. So I didn't want to confuse him. So I don't think it's a great board going up against a decent Viking board. I guess my build was 2 units of 6 javelin levy to get out there, get killed. And then a unit of 12 warriors on foot, 12 bowmen on foot. So I've got the big bow unit. So if he can figure out, is it Odin? The ability, the 2 common ability.
Yes.
There's a little, we'll see if he can figure it out, so it's a good counter for that. Right. And then let's make sure I had played with a full 6 points. 2 units of 4 Hearthguard. Now, I use these mounted, and if I was going to do it again, I would use the Varangian Guard guys, because Bloodshed's good, and then with the Vikings, he just ran all. I'm just like, you're going to use all warriors, berserkers, and your warlord. So he's got Odin to counter like my shooting unit. He gets to see how the shooting works. There's some javelin guys, but then the horses, he doesn't have the counter for the horses, this shooting, so I'm like, they don't want like going in terrain, but in the open, they just move twice as fast, and you don't have the counter to them. So in the interest of trying to make an interesting game against the newbie, I should have used the Varangian Guard to make it more interesting. But as far as my enjoyment and playing, so previously I used them as the 1 8-pack hammer unit, and we've been playing with those little 4-packs, Monty, and I'm starting to enjoy it, and they worked really good in this game. They got extra Saga die generation, and then frequently with this build, I got points in the levy and the archers, so I'm always running out of hammer units, so I always got to throw the warlord in like earlier than I want to. And so having a 4-pack that could hang around him and fight and provide protection,
right,
and then still have a 4-pack somewhere else running around doing damage was really nice. Where I remember before, I'm like, well, I can't just have the 8-pack just hanging out here, like doing nothing. That's a waste. How long am I going to keep these guys in reserve? I got to get them out there. And then the warlord is off by himself. So I really liked how that worked out. And
nice.
There's different abilities there. You can sneak in additional attack and defense dice on them. So you can beef them up a little bit. Where like the 8-pack, there's nothing that is going to make them that much better. I can make the 4-pack marginally better, add a couple attack dice and some defense dice. And with the 8-pack, I can just do the same thing, just add like 2 attack and 2 defense dice. So it's not like, I'm getting re-rolling 16 attacks versus 8 attacks or anything like that. So that's probably how I'm going to run those guys from now on.
Interesting. Okay, so look, you found a new build. Awesome.
And then the other kind of new thing I did was maxing out the archers at 12.
Yep.
And the warriors at 12. Because before I would do, I think I would do like maybe 9 archers and 5 archers and 9 warriors or something to squeeze out an extra Saga die, because I really needed it. But with the Hearthguard split, I got the extra die there, and then those units are, at their maximum effectiveness, and some of the abilities, you needed a lot more archers around to use that really good defense dice ability. You need 6 or more of them to get 4 attacks. So having a big block there is really nice. And then when they do come in, they're going to eat 12 attacks. That's nothing to sneeze at.
No.
For sure. And that like little 5-man archer unit never really did that much. Cost a die to activate them. And then even that shooting ability, all your foot units can shoot. Well, depending how you interpret that, if you can't shoot with one of them, maybe you can't activate them all for shooting. Like if I have a levy unit beat up, in the corner, the way that recently the activate all units for the Welsh, Alex jumped in and said you can't do it if one of them was exhausted. Well, if you can't shoot all the units because one of them's not in range for a shot, can you use that ability even? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to chase that down. I thought I saw something, and now I won't be able to find it right away, where he might have addressed this question about you shoot but you don't have a target, or you rest but you don't have a fatigue. I got to find my way back. Okay. I just don't remember it clearly enough. Good question, though.
Yeah, so there's that. So having more units, not necessarily the answer, but the game scenario we played then was Old Feud, classic.
Oh, good one.
Gave him the Brute, and I took was it the Mystic?
Yep.
Hate that guy. Hate him so much. So this, was a newer game. So I'm like, listen, if you can kill my guy and yours is alive, you win, So that gives you a focus, on what to do this game and where to direct your forces. So early on, he pushed pretty good. Got an early Ragnarok with the Vikings, and I instructed him. It's customary to shout Ragnarok when you in the gaming hall when you roll that ability.
Yes, it is.
And so he pushed up really good. Got some fatigues on the Mystic early. Well, first turn he sucked Saga dice from me, Monty. It wasn't looking good. Second turn he takes gets in with Ragnarok. Thankfully he's exhausted, so he doesn't get the second hit, but puts 3 hits on him, so he's completely exhausted. So now I gotta activate again, and it gives you a -3 penalty because you have 3 fatigues.
Ooh.
So I'm like, anything but a 6. I'm losing a Saga dice here, and I need to rest this guy, and I need to move him, so he's gonna take 2 dice, and I'm like, ugh. And you beat up my little levy generators. I think I only have 4 or 5. But, maybe this is what people are talking about when they use them. Monty, I rolled the dice, rolled that 6. So even with that 3 penalty, I got a bonus Saga die. So he was able to rest. And I was able to kind of move some stuff around and take out the threats against him. So that was turn 2. Turn 3, he actually did go in again, kill him. And then I was like, ooh, you might be taking me down here.
Yep.
But at this point, he had to get across with the Brute and get him out of his deployment zone.
Right.
And so he didn't have any cover to go into. So he had to kind of come out in the open a little bit. So we went through turn 4, and I was like, well, I can't. He got him out, and then I wasn't ready to attack him. Turns 4, either turns 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. I also rolled one of those. I only rolled 1 common, and the rest uncommons. And then the second one I rolled 2 commons and the rest uncommons. So those are, I think you played in the last couple months with Last Romans. So it's like a double whammy because all the good abilities use the commons, and then you need the commons to activate the warriors. So, but it was good for the double Hearthguard build because I had plenty of dice for activating Hearthguard, and you could deal.
Got it.
So I'm like, listen, I can't get you on turn 4. I think I could get you on 5, but the game can end on turn 4 if you roll a 1 right here.
Yep.
But he did not roll the 1, and then ended up beating him up with those Hearthguard in the end, taking my licks and just barely killing the Brute. So I know I was supposed to lose Monty. I mean, we might have lost him, but I had to press in with the Last Romans. I will say that I really like that 12-pack of warriors with the bows. You got that ability that gives you 4 defense dice, if you have 6 or more. So that really counters. I mean, you're only like 1 pip worse.
Right.
3 to 4, but you get 4 defense dice. That's pretty good. I think that's more than
awesome.
Makes up for it.
I think so.
Yeah, they're kind of hunkering out in some terrain, some rocky ground. At one point, they struck out. He had Odin queued up. So I'm like, well, I'm going into combat, baby, and beat up a unit of Viking warriors. And then I think on turn 4 or 5, his warlord was there with 1 fatigue on him. I'm like, well, I'll soften you up with my warriors, and then I'll send my warlord in. But I run in with my, I think it's 10, 11 attacks at this point. Just kill the warlord outright. The warriors with bows doing a number. So I'm keen on this little build I stumbled upon here, Monty.
Sounds like a good one.
I think it's got some legs as far as the last Romans go. So that was my game. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And Tom was into it. We kind of went over it, and I let him put down the terrain, and I was like, well, you could have put it like this. Could have kept your brute in the woods. If you put the terrain a little further up like this. So he's getting the tips and tricks. And he's working on some Islamic forces. So we should have a new player in the works here. Really excited to have him on board, join the team. And that's that game. Monty?
Yeah, good job, Rodge.
We play a game.
We did play a game.
Tabletop Simulator. The campaign.
Yes.
This one was an interesting one.
Yes, it
Monty,
was.
how did I stack the odds against you in this one?
I was so very happy. Is it okay if I do the spoiler? Like, I was so very happy that I won a game, right? That's a streak of 2 wins. And just like I think I've said, just like when the Timberwolves get 2 wins in the Twin Cities, we lose our minds here. So I was so very happy, and I thought about it, and I middle of the night, like I wake up and I'm like, my brain's on, and I'm thinking about the game, and I'm thinking about like your forces and my forces, and as I'm kind of putting it together, I can kind of see it, and I'm like, oh no. So the next morning I asked you, and I texted you, I said, dude, did you put 5 points on the table? Because I don't remember what the last point was. Thanks for spotting me that. That took the shine away.
Yeah. So we played as Eastern Princes going up against the Levantine Crusaders, a rematch from the Battle of the Cows. I decided we're going to do Battle of Heroes. That's part of the campaign to run through that once. I left it completely neutral. I took no advantage there. What I did take advantage of was I said, we're going to use the artifacts from the Age of Vikings. I'm going to give you a crappy one that really sucks ass, and you're not even going to want to use it.
And I didn't.
And I'm going to get a mighty steed for my general. It's going to be awesome. And he gets it's like 4 things that he does. Yes. He gets a charge for free.
It's
when
amazing.
He goes in the woods, he goes to medium instead of short. The wheel bay is a 12-inch wheel bay.
Right.
Which I love because I could still order the levy back there to take the shots. And then he didn't have the armor penalty against shooting. Now, unfortunately, at the end, I forgot that last one.
Just one more thing you're throwing my way.
I did myself a disservice there. Probably wouldn't have mattered. But on top of my other problem I did here, so I gave myself a little advantage there, but then spotted Monty back by playing with 5 points instead of 6. So what I did was in the cow game, I had 3 points of warriors. So I had a big 12-pack and then 2 6-packs. And then I was like, I don't know what those 6-packs are really doing. So in this game, I had a 12-pack and then a 4-pack, just generating Saga dice.
Yep.
I don't really like to do that, but I did it in this game. I had a levy bows and then 2 units of mounted Hearthguard. So there should have been a 3rd unit of mounted Hearthguard with javelins to join the fight. But there was just 2. So the way that it worked out, we deployed like it's the one where the deployment zones, we're like 6.1 inches away.
Yeah.
The battle lines were drawn. You had a horde of the pilgrims, the fanatical pilgrims, and then all warriors, one unit mounted, some shooters.
Yep.
So it was a wall of bodies. And so immediately I went in, and originally I was just going to shoot and then scooch off, kind of do a hit and run. So if I had done that, it would have worked, but it probably would have killed like a couple of the pilgrims. So I wanted to hit your pilgrims hard before you had a chance to get your abilities up, because you had the pilgrims out front.
Exactly.
And for this scenario, they were double points too.
Right. So that opening was brilliant, and it was a risk I had to take, like to deploy in your back line and deploy outside of your archers. Your archers were sitting in the woods looking one way, and I came in like almost like a column on your flank, kind of like. And so I was really stacked, but I wasn't facing your archers, which is what I really wanted. And I just knew I held my breath because my pilgrims had to survive a turn with no dice. And then if I could survive that turn, then I could start feeding them all the defensive plays off of the Crusader board. But you hit them hard, and how did that turn out?
Well, so I hit them hard, and then the idea was I would like pull back and just retreat. But once they had that fatigue on there, you could let me burn a dice to try to move them, but you'd reduce it to short. They'd take a fatigue because it was a second one. So it wasn't that effective, where if I had just moved up, shot, killed a couple, I would have gotten away.
Right.
And then, it'd be like, well, it'd be one of those first turns frequently in Saga where you don't do much, and then it's up to the second guy to kind of set the tone. So what happened was I couldn't really get away. The reaction ability is only good against movements. So if you're in charge range, you can't scoot away. And so it ended up being a tit for tat kind of battle where, it's just escalating, but you have way more bodies.
Oh yeah.
Your combat abilities
6 points
give you some decent benefits where, the princes are more nuanced. I don't have as many to begin with. So it was just a mistake to continue to engage. I could have just lost that first Hearthguard unit and then retreated and let you come at the woods. And, that shooting attack where you reroll your saves or your successful save, it's pretty good. Like I could actually kill some stuff.
Oh yeah.
It would have, having the third unit there, it's tough to say, what would have happened. Because there wasn't a lot of room. Like we were pinned into a narrow corridor. So you were kind of tripping over yourself. So I would have had those same issues.
I was tripping over my units.
So maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe they would have been stuck in the back, not doing anything. So everything would have happened the same, but I would have had another Hearthguard unit. And we kind of called it at turn 4, I think, anyways, after you did a number on me with the final Fanatical Pilgrim Assault.
Right.
But
all the action was leading up to that charge. That was really what I was just trying to get. I was trying to shield them. I was trying to use them. I had an idea, and I finally got the dice I needed to make them fight like warriors. So
yeah. So overall, I think you did good. It was kind of more like a stress test of the princes on my part, just to see how aggressive I could get and what would happen to me if I just stayed with the fatigue within charge range of you with Javelin Hearthguard. So yeah, it was an interesting battle. It wasn't the pitch battle I was hoping for. Definitely want to try it one more time. One more.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do one of the pitch battle scenarios, one of those 10. So we'll have some normal deployment, and we'll see what 3 units of Hearthguard Javelins can do instead of 2. Yeah, we'll have a go of it. And it should be interesting, even if you use the Baltics, because of the +1 armor.
Oh, right.
Ability. I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
It'll be a interesting game. I don't think the Baltics. I think it'll be good. I don't think you're necessarily that much worse or better.
Yeah, I agree. Different.
Or were you going to use the Ordenstadt? I guess it's up to
you. Yeah, I hate to say it. Like, I would rather use almost anything other than the Ordenstadt.
Okay. Yeah,
I think I'm right. I wanted to try the Baltics, I think, because like that's really what I have. And I don't like playing with the Levant Crusaders. I mean, I have one unit of Pilgrims, but I don't know. I mean, at least, you've made me try some different things. And so it wouldn't be hard to paint up another unit of Pilgrims and try the Pilgrims plus the Fanatical Pilgrims, muscle behind them. Yeah. But yeah, we'll do one more and, see how it goes. That game was a little bit odd with the way the deployment went. And I got a little bit lucky because one of the victory conditions was called, oh goodness, I can't remember what it was. It was where like you pick a unit, target. You pick a unit and you get double points when you kill each figure in the unit. And so you picked my Pilgrims, and I picked your 12-man heavy weapon warriors. Mm-hmm. And so since it's basically 12 warriors, I mean, I kill them all. I get, double points for that. That's pretty big.
Yeah. So I was actually happy with that one because I'm like, well, at least I get points for killing these stupid pilgrims.
Right.
And then I was like, well, I'll just keep my warriors back. And so maybe if I had that other Hearthguard unit, I wouldn't have had send them in so early.
Yeah, right.
And hold them back. So what finally destroyed that unit was you went in with the Fanatical Pilgrims and frankly, you just rolled pretty well.
Yeah, they did.
I didn't have a fatigue on me.
No, I don't think so.
But I had 12. You had your 12 attacks, and nothing else was really affecting it. And then I think you killed like 10 of them.
Yes, it was a little extreme.
However many hits and failed saves.
Just
straight up.
It's a great combo.
I did give his back as good as I got.
Yep.
Somewhat. I think I killed 6 or 7 of them. So at least I took them down to a goodly number. But then you were able to power through and take out my warlord with those pilgrims. So let's talk about the Fanatical Pilgrims.
Yeah.
Let's shift
I'm open
gears.
Up the book here. Have it all ready.
And so let's talk about the Levantine Crusaders.
Yep.
Because this is where they come in. So I think I mentioned it last time. So the first time that you used them in the cow game, I thought the Pilgrims were the Fanatical Pilgrims. I thought you were
using vanilla Pilgrims.
Towards the end of the game, I figured it out that they were just the regular Pilgrims.
Right.
So it's kind of confusing that you have these two units that are similar, but he kind of meant it in some ways with the battle board. So the regular Pilgrims, they're unarmed, but have improvised projectiles, and they're armor 3 against melee and shooting. So they count as shooters in close combat.
Yep.
Right. So they just generate the
down.
Third.
Yep.
Yeah,
you were correct. 4 dice.
We figured out that improvised projectiles are not javelins. They're not a free shot. You have to activate it. And it's a range of short.
Yeah.
And they block with a +1.
So 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Block. And then in close combat, they're unarmed. So the opponent blocks on 4s.
Correct.
And you cannot close ranks because you're unarmed.
Yeah.
So that's a kick in the gonads. So really, they're quite bad.
Pretty shabby all the way around.
It's pretty much as bad a unit as you can get.
In Saga, right?
In Saga. Now, the Fanatical Pilgrims are... I'm just looking here. They're basically identical as far as that equipment here. So, a couple things. So, you can only take one unit of Fanatical Pilgrims.
Correct.
Unless you're using Peter the Hermit, and that is on page 69. Unless otherwise indicated, you cannot add the same unit of auxiliaries to your warband more than once. So,
correct.
You cannot take more than one unit of Fanatical Pilgrims. You can take them in conjunction with the Pilgrims, or multiple units of Pilgrims if you're a crazy boy. But that's a limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fun part here, one sentence. You can interpolate this however you want, unfortunately. When in a Crusader warband, they count as pilgrims for purposes of saga abilities on the battle board. Monty, what does that mean? What the heck?
Yeah, so I had to chase that down because I haven't seen it, haven't used them, and I was a little confused. So I found two things that clarified it for me. Number one, when you read the fine print on Peter the Hermit, Peter the Hermit says that your Fanatical Pilgrims gain the loyal attribute, and loyal means they unlock the whole board. So the fact that they're talking about it, right, in that arena, like then backs up my first reading, which is, treat them as pilgrims. They simply mean that when you look at the Crusader board, those abilities often say if you have a unit of pilgrims, then Fanatical Pilgrims, if they're the only pilgrims you have, they count as pilgrims. Not that they get to use the whole board. They don't have loyal unless you have Peter the Hermit. Loyal unless you have Peter the standard Fanatical Pilgrim, and the standard Levant build is just going to let you use the top level ability.
Yes, so that's correct. And there's nuance there. You might, if somebody was using the saga abilities without Peter the Hermit, they could say, "Well, it says they count as pilgrims." And you're like, "Well, okay, I got you." So that is the intent because of Peter the Hermit. So Fanatical Pilgrims are mercenaries, or auxiliaries as they call them in Age of Crusades. So they cannot trigger melee abilities or shooting abilities, and they cannot move with advanced abilities. So the Peasants' Crusade, they are unaffected by, they don't move with that unless you're using Peter the Hermit. And so Peter, the other thing he does is he lets you take multiple Fanatical Pilgrims. So that's where it gets out of hand. And so as we go through, the one unit of Fanatical Pilgrims just in a regular Crusader board, I think it's good, but it's manageable, and you can kind of foresee, how it's going to work out. So they count as pilgrims for these certain abilities. Why don't we just finish up with their special rules before we kind of talk about the battle board and how they interact with that? So, can you talk about martyrs?
Right. Each time you take a figure from the unit, you take an available saga die, roll it, and place it on your battle board. So you also remove a fatigue from any units with an S of the unit monks, which includes themselves when they get fatigued. And so if it happens to several units, you're going to roll several saga dice, place them on your board, and if you have several units with fatigue with an S of these guys as they go down, you can sweep one per figure that comes off.
So it's very good. Nothing like it in Saga. And then the fact clarified, I killed 7 of them. You only have 2 available dice. You still get to roll those 2 available dice.
Bingo.
It's not all or nothing. And then Hallelujah is the last ability. When the final figure in the unit is slain, discard all the fatigue tokens of every unit in your warband. And it kind of came up in our game. Do you remove all the fatigues and then friends are destroyed, so you put the fatigues down? Or do you friends are destroyed, so you put the fatigues down and then you remove them all with Hallelujah ability? I think we both, I wasn't sure at the time, but we looked at it. We kind of think thematically it makes sense that they're destroyed, you put down the fatigues, and then you remove them with Hallelujah because all the fatigues are gone. Right?
Right. So yeah, it came up, and I mean, you can kind of, I mean, there's a level of things. You find things in the FAQ. You could sometimes find them in the Studio Tomahawk forum. This particular one, I did find Andy Lyon had rang in somewhere to Summit's question, and they said fatigue is dished immediately. Immediately means immediately, and that then Hallelujah follows in, and that he had confirmed with Alex Bushell that in fact that's the sequencing that this is. That's how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not going to argue with that. I think thematically, because looking in the book, trying to figure it out, you brought me to page 42 because I remember that something, if there's like a tie or something, whoever's turn it is gets to decide. But so there's some verbiage in here, so we'll just go over it. But these are specifically with Saga abilities and how they interact with each other, because you could, when you're making the Saga abilities, you can't foresee every possible interaction. So you could have things that happen simultaneously. But attacker defender, if the effects of several abilities must be resolved at the same time, resolve the attacker's effects before the defender's. If there's no attacker or defender, the players whose turn it is resolves their abilities' effects before their adversary. So, maybe that gives you a clue. But then you go right down. In order, if a player is supposed to resolve the effects of several abilities at once, so that seems more applicable. But again, these are like Saga abilities being played. They resolve the effects one after the other in the order of their choice. So, I mean, you can extrapolate it to this as well. This is not clear 100%, but I think we agree that the intent is to wipe the fatigues when they're destroyed, and that's that.
Right. And so, Rodge, you bring up a very good point. When it comes to the auxiliaries, or in the Age of Viking, when it comes to the mercs, generally the special rules spell out when the special rule kicks in or what is done. There are a couple exceptions. This is one of them where it's like, you kind of wobble just a little bit, and then between you and your bud or the person you're playing, you just kind of suss it out pretty quickly based on the landscape. And like in our game, like we were stuck on it for about 10 seconds. And then we were like, it's not going to affect the game.
Yeah.
I'm going to just slap down some fatigue, but then I'm going to go back and just like try to find what the answer is. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quick resolution.
So those are their abilities, and we can jump into the board.
Yep.
Because, again, it gets kind of complicated and nuanced in what they can do.
Right.
So there are 2 advanced abilities they can benefit from, and there are 3 that you could think that they might be able to, but you would only be able to do that with Peter the Hermit. So the ones you can't use them with is the Blessing of the Righteous. So I don't know. There's nothing specific. If you have pilgrims, you can use this, but it's really awesome if you can use it on the pilgrims because it keeps them alive.
It does.
There's the Valiant ability. It has pilgrims in the title.
Yep.
So you would think that you could use it, but it's a melee ability. So they can't, they're mercs, they can't use it. And then the Peasants' Crusade is the one that kind of sneaks in there.
Yep. Can't use it.
Because they're mercs, they can't be activated by advanced Saga abilities. Mm-hmm. So there are 2 that they can benefit from, Monty. Yep. So do you want to get into those 2?
Sure. Happy are the humble. That's really the key. That's an order's ability. Until the end of the turn, your pilgrims have the same melee aggression as warriors and are no longer considered unarmed. So they go from, all those lame things we described earlier to like throwing 12 dice. I mean, and they're not unarmed. So like, that's the key. Then they can finally punch. Yeah.
So that's the one they're using for their attack run. The other ability is God's Host.
Yep.
So this is an activation reaction. So this isn't, not a melee. So mercenaries can be affected by this, but it's used after the enemy does an activation, and then you can choose a unit of pilgrims in your warband. So you could choose them, and they get 4 bonus dice, defense dice against melee and shooting attacks for the rest of the turn, which is quite tasty and good for keeping them alive.
Yep.
That's interesting. 4 bonus. I was thinking about if you were going to be really mean, if my Eastern Princes, if I activate that movement ability on your turn, you could pop this trigger after enemy unit finishes their activation. You could use it offensively on your turn. If the enemy has a Saga ability that lets them move on the Crusaders' turn, so the Eastern Princes. So normally this ability is purely defensive because you need the enemy to activate, and then you pop it. So
right.
I don't know, I just saw that.
Right. So Rodge, remind me, yours is an activation reaction though, right? Mm-hmm. Your Eastern Princes. So I couldn't do an activation reaction to an activation reaction. Activation reactions can only be played against a vanilla activation. So no worries. I can't do this in my turn.
Well, good to know.
Yeah.
For the people out there. Okay. So that's good. So the pilgrims here, Monty.
Yep.
It's actually not too bad then.
No.
If we're going up against them in the regular build.
Right.
Because with chinks in their armor, without fear being wounded, blessings of the righteous, if you're loyal with Peter the Hermit, you have these monks with obnoxious attack power.
Yeah.
And they have obscene defensive power on top of it, so you can't kill them. And then even if you do kill them, the ones that get through, they just keep going. They're the Energizer Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's too bad because it's like you said, you need Happy or the Humble.
Mm-hmm.
So on your turn, you're going in for the attack. You need an uncommon and a common, which you'll probably get. But if you still want to do Peasants Crusade, that's an uncommon and a common.
Yes.
So that's 4 of your dice.
4, yep.
If your Warlord isn't nearby, you need an uncommon to activate them. Otherwise, you have to use We Obey.
Yep.
And you cannot forget that you can't use Peasants Crusade with them, or else you're going to be very sad that you can't activate them.
Yes.
So that's key. Very so you need at least 2 uncommons to get that off. So that's not, you could be planning that and you just don't get it. And that's, or you get 1 uncommon. You need at least 1 uncommon for sure, or you have to move your Warlord over. But then that might stop you from Peasants Crusade, so it could put a kink in your plans in that respect. And then, so when you do your attack run, you get the additional Saga dice. For them to keep going, they have to get an uncommon or a rare on those ones, or you have to have loaded it up beforehand. Yep. So it's not a foregone conclusion that you'll just be able to attack incessantly and wear them down.
Exactly.
So just based off the, that variability, I think it's pretty much fine. It's a little
I
janky
agree,
as far as the way that units you think should work.
Right. Right. Just grind through the minutia, understand the minutia, understand what you are doing or what your buddy's doing, with the Fanatics is legit. But I'd throw one other wrinkle in here, Rodge, and it's the reason why I didn't bring them during the cow game. So the cow game was a chance to just force me to use the the Levant Pilgrim, Standard Pilgrim, and use the top level effects on all of these abilities and just see how do the Crusaders run when they're all warrior plus a unit of pilgrims. So I got that under my belt. When I started thinking about running Fanatical Pilgrims and that I get 1 and it's a special unit and that it's vulnerable, right? God's Host can only go up after an enemy activation has resolved. So so in my game, you remember I fronted my Fanatical Pilgrims with Standard Pilgrims. And I did that because those guys can be super powered with Blessing of the Righteous, which the Fanatics can't use. And they move on peasants, which the Fanatics can't. And I was powering up God's Host to keep my regular pilgrims alive, and they were taking the shooting and they took the melee. But if I just dumped them and my Fanatics were on the front line, you would have plowed into them with that first charge. You took 5 of them away, and I can't use Blessing of the Righteous. I'm not moving them on peasants. They just would be very vulnerable. You would know you need to just get on top of them and hammer them before I can do any of my interesting board plays to try to keep them alive. And then once they're gone, they're just gone. The whole point's gone. All their special stuff is gone. And I think that's right. I mean, you're on the other side. It seems like the answer is you just want to hammer them and get them off the table as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's tough because you got to set up, attack in one activation in order to get past the God's Host, because to get past that you need big attack.
Yep.
You need like 12 attack dice, and then
so maybe it would have been your right.
Yeah,
so maybe it'd be your heavy weapon warriors with 12 attack
the big
dice.
Choppers, because 4 defense dice against shooting,
it's brutal.
not happening.
I'm gonna survive.
4 defense dice against even like 8 attack dice. It's like I'm not gonna do a lot here. If you're up to the 10, 12, statistically you're gonna save like 1.3 more guys in melee with nothing else. The key is really, I think, just going at them, just hitting them when they're unarmed. They're generating pathetic dice,
right?
And just take the points. They're worth extra points because they're mercs. Take them under half, get another bonus point when you wipe them out. It is what it is as far as their special abilities. And then I guess the other thing too, I mean, you can hammer them, and let's say if I'd done that the first turn, and like you roll a bunch of Saga dice and set up your board. Well, it's like your turn next anyways, and you were going to roll a bunch of Saga dice and set up your board. So, I mean, it gives you an extra crack at, maybe getting rares or, whatever you're fishing for. But depending what they're doing, getting all those extra Saga dice can sometimes not really do that much. If you're doing it on the first turn, or if they already had stuff queued up, you only have two extra Saga dice because you went super defensive or something like that.
Exactly.
And this is like the one unit that can't use all the melee abilities that you queued up. I mean, so there's enough nuance there where all of a sudden they become the weak link in the line because you can't reroll your defense dice or limit it to just 3 casualties. And so some ways, the actual pilgrims are better because they can use those.
Yes.
Depending what's going on. So I guess I would probably, for my own sake, probably either just take the pilgrims or the fanatical pilgrims in a game. Obviously you could take both. You did both. I think it works good. As far as keeping track of everything, keeping things straight for both opponents, maybe as a courtesy, I'd recommend that. But you could do what you want, but you just gotta keep track of all this stuff. And the thing that's unfortunate, I think, is it's kind of on the other player to point out they can't use the Peasants Crusade or the Blessing of the Righteous or hold on there. They can't use that because you don't have Peter the Hermit.
Right.
It's interesting. Monty, would you do like two units of regular pilgrims with the 11th time, or 3?
I don't think so. No, I just don't.
It's not an Anglo-Saxon thing.
Yeah. So this is a good question. So I think the issue, like as I recall, like if I'm going to run 2 regular ones, right, is that I have 2 great defense abilities that regular pilgrims can use. I have Blessing of the Righteous for 1 melee, exactly 1 melee, and I have God's Host, which is that's the awesome one that keeps you super defensive and powered up every attack. So if I have 2 and they're deployed side by side, whatever one I put God's Host on, you go hammer the other one. And you just work around it. So, and if I have 3, then you go, well, only one has God's Host, so that gives me 2 targets. Sure, I can pop Blessing of the Righteous, but, come with a second wave. I mean, I know it's 2 punches, but I just think you can deal with it. I just don't know. That feels like a rabbit hole to just like, they're not the Anglo-Saxons. And I could be completely wrong. I would say if someone out there runs 2 or more pilgrims in their Levant Crusader list, I'd love to hear about it. Yeah, because what do I know?
I would be curious about that.
Yeah.
I think the downsides are kind of, as you mentioned, I think these abilities are really good, like when they do work in conjunction with the pilgrims. I guess one thing with Happy Are the Humble is it's orders only.
Yep.
I think the Anglo-Saxons can make it. Can they do orders reaction for warriors on the opponent's turn, or is that orders only? I think
it is just orders. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
still,
it kind of has that same weakness then, where they need to launch the attacks, and when you're coming in, they're not doing a lot of damage in return.
Right.
But I don't know. I pop Happy Are the Humble. It's all the pilgrims.
Yep.
So if you can launch 2 or 3 attacks with those
12
guys,
dice. It's going to hurt.
Or overactivate. Yeah, I guess you can overactivate with 1, but having a couple of those. Because, Monty, you got the Peasants Crusade. I mean, so you're getting some efficiency there with your activations. So we obey, use an uncommon to move up the second one. Pop Peasants Crusade. The whirlwind is unleashed.
The issue kind of comes back to it, Rodge. You pointed it up. Blessing the Righteous is an uncommon. Happy the Humble needs an uncommon. Peasants Crusade needs an uncommon. There comes that time you shake your Saga dice, you throw them, and they're all helmets. You're like, well, what am I going to do now? And, and Rodge is cracking his knuckles because he's like, well, this will be fun during my turn. Yeah,
there's nothing on here you're going to be doing with those helmets, unfortunately. So, I could see 1 for sure, 2 maybe. Take 2 if you want. I don't think it's going to hurt you.
Right.
But, interesting chat. If anybody has played the Fanatical Pilgrims, so this is all in the context of not Peter the Hermit.
Right.
So
our game was not game breaking. You had them off the table. I unleashed them, and you had everyone down, killed it to a man, like in your turn immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you just kept pushing them basically till you had 1 left.
That's right.
So, is that the way to do it or not? I don't know. Could go in, do some attacks, get some Saga dice, set up another turn, keep them alive. I don't know. You could do it that way too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So, I'd be keen to hear people's experiences on the Fanatical Pilgrims, just in the regular Crusaders list. And if you've been playing it the same way that we have described, following the rules, there's a little conjecture and nuance in there for sure. So I think as long as everybody understands how it works, I think it's an all right unit.
Right.
And I think that was good to talk that all out.
Agree.
Definitely in round 3 of a tournament is not the time to learn the nuances of the pilgrims. So I'm glad. I'm sure this will save me at some point.
Right.
On Age of Crusades Day at Adepticon. Thank you, Monty.
Yeah.
And that was good running them. We will continue the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking probably we had 3 more games, maybe. I don't know. I have to look at it. I think we can do it in 3. Round it out for our little Baltic Crusade campaign, Monty.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. Now I'll go over that checklist again and see if we can hit it all. I think we have to use ruses yet.
Okay.
So there's the generic ones on the website. So maybe that's what I'll do we'll have the pitch battle game, and then a couple ruses maybe thrown in there.
Nice.
To spice it up a little bit. And we'll see what the princes can do.
Yeah.
I'll be back with the pagan peoples for that finale, though, Monty. I'll just
I'm gonna just hang my head.
Ideas, yeah.
See them in my dreams, my nightmares.
Yeah.
They're coming from the woods. They're coming from everywhere.
Woods. Yeah, but I don't know. I think that first game that we played, you were so close to beating me. I think you need to go back.
It was
and
close.
Look at your notes on that one. You had me on the ropes. So there was something about that, the way I was running it, or what you were doing, that I think you had. There's a little kernel, a little nugget of something there.
Agree.
So
I'll study them. I'll do a little extra training up, just like the Karate Kid, but in Saga.
Yeah. When you're done smashing your elephants. And, after
yes, I'll try to make time.
Make some time, turn off the lights, but underneath your bed, maybe get your night light out, get your people set up.
All right, for the big showdown.
Oh, right. Okay, man. Well, it's been good.
It's been fun.
Chatting Saga with you once again.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, listening, watching, commenting. Post below if you have anything interesting to contribute. Head on over to the Saga Thursday Discord. That Discord is hopping, Monty.
It is hopping, always.
I can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
But there's always cool stuff. When, I'm watching my kid for like 4 hours straight, just pop off into the restroom for a few minutes, read about Age of Hannibal on the Discord, recharge the batteries. You know how it is.
Yep.
It's a lifesaver. So check it out and join the conversation. And I think that's it, buddy.
That's it.
Talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.
Night.
Bye-bye. Saga!